Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Tales of the Valiant CR Exposed. On today's episode we are looking at the CR1 quarter skeleton, a, standard run-of-the-mill skeleton for your your very early on CR1 to, or level 1 to level 3 games. Hopefully you're not skipping to level 3 because, well, maybe you are. It's the thing to do with 5e style games. Anyways, before we get into looking at the skeleton here, let's talk about the business here. And the business is this tool. If you like what I'm doing here and you'd like to get the tool to make yourself perfectly balanced monsters using the amazing custom monster creation rules by Tales of the Valiant, you too can get this spreadsheet at my Ko-fi page, link in the description below, where you can get it completely for free or donate if you feel so inclined to. Beyond that, we also have a whole bunch of other options in the shop. Just take a look. I've been spouting at you guys about this all along. There's classes, subclasses, monsters, a bunch of other things. Join the channel, join the Ko-fi, support as little as $1 a month. That's greatly appreciated. I'm trying to work out things to encourage people to do that, as well as like, subscribe, comment, share, all those things to make the YouTube algorithm overlords happy. Now, with the business out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the skeleton here. Now, as you'll see here, I have all of the text-based stuff from the Monster Vault 1, so that way I'm not showing any artwork and no one gets upset. And I forgot to tell in the last episode of where the goblin was in the book. In Monster Vault 1, the skeleton could be found on 295. So from there, we're going to go ahead and throw in our CR1. So the CR1 here is technically a -1, just works out that way. It's easier, although technically I can revert back to normal, as I mentioned in the last video. And we are going to throw in the modifiers here. So we have a 0, a 2, a 2, a -2, a -1, -1, not 14, and a -3 for all of our stats. Now we may need to make some adjustments here because they don't show in Tales of the Valiant if something has a proficiency or not, just to help keep printing down or redundancies. It makes sense, but it's also a little strange. In any event, before we move on, let's take a look at what our monster is expected to have. Now, our monster here at CR1 quarter should have a proficiency bonus of 2. Well, it's going to have a proficiency bonus of 2. Shouldn't. It will. From there, we're also expecting 10 to 12 AC. If it's higher or lower, that will modify our monster's hit points. Base 15 hit points, if it's not modified. 3 to 4 attack bonus, 5 to 7 damage, and 10 to 12 save DC. Now, the funny part is if our monster has more or less DPR, damage per round, this also modifies the hit points. But, and this is a really weird but, if we have higher or lower save DC or attack bonus, it doesn't affect the monster. I really believe this should also affect the monster. Just like AC is a huge depiction, a huge issue of whether or not our monster will be hit and lose hit points, the monster is dealing damage based off of our attack bonus or our save DC and should balance out the monster one way or the other as well. To kind of work with that, I have a experimental feature here that kind of just works and adjusts the hit points based off of how strong they are, but it's not suggested to actually use it because it's not part of the actual rules, and after speaking with the developers, they suggest that the attack bonus should fall in line, so you kind of have to force it. If it's above or below, don't do that and just get it within the range to make things kind of work out. Otherwise, you might start having some issues. Maybe there's something to do with, I don't know, because it's all about adjusting the hit points. I'm not going to speculate here. I'm not in the mood to it. I'm tired. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, let's start putting in our monster's info here. We're expecting, or we should have an AC of 13. At the moment, the dexterity is only giving us a 12 total, so we're going to go ahead and add in a +1 for its armor scraps. And then we are looking for a total of adjusted 14 hit points, which is good to see. Right now we're at 16, but that's because we haven't modified our monster yet. From there, we do have a speed of 30, which is important. At the moment, since our speed is 30 and not below 30, we don't have to make any adjustments there. Again, if this was an ooze or something that is very slow, we would want to make sure to put that in. So it's very important to double check your speed with your monster. If they're slow, they get more hit points. If they're fast, that doesn't matter. From there, we do have vulnerability to bludgeoning and resistance to piercing, and immunities with the undead resilience, which we'll get to. So let's come down here and start putting in some immunities and resistances and whatnot. So we are vulnerable to bludgeoning. Now we likely, oh, we do see a change here. We do have, for each type of damage the creature is vulnerable to, we are getting an extra hit points. So at the moment, since we're vulnerable to bludgeoning or any of the others, you know, if we were to add these in, it wouldn't make any kind of a change here, or at least it's not supposed to be. I'll have to update the counter for that, since that's a bit of a bug. It's good to see. We are only supposed to be getting once for bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing here, because they group it all together. From there, we are getting 8% extra hit points, which is what I've been trying to say, and as I'm waffling along here. We do have resistance to piercing, though, so we will add piercing resistance, and that will reduce our hit points by -5. So technically, now we have an adjusted 3% extra hit points at the moment. And then we have immunities to undead resilience. So if we come down to undead resilience, we'll see that the skeleton is immune to poison damage, to exhaustion, and the poison condition. So let's see here, we'll go ahead and throw in poison, and then we have, what was it, exhaustion and poison condition. Okay, so we add in exhaustion, we're resistant here, and the poison condition we are immune to, right? Oh yeah, it's supposed to be immune to poison damage. Oh, excuse me. So let's fix these, immune and immune. Now the funny part here is, if we had one more condition, then our monster would be losing some hit points. But because we only have 2, it doesn't trigger the negative here, the negative modifier for having too many resistances or condition immunities and such. Now on top of that, due to the piercing resistances and immunities, we're not getting any kind of a modifier here, because we don't have just the one, and we do have the vulnerability, so things are being adjusted once again, and we are at +8 hit points, percentage of hit points. Man, I cannot talk at the moment. Now that we have taken care of the vulnerabilities, immunities, and resistances, we're going to go ahead and move on to our monster traits. To finish this up, we have false appearance, which means while it's motionless, it looks like a regular skeleton, which is cool. Undead nature, the skeleton doesn't require air, food, or drink, and then undead resilience, like we've already covered. So we can skip all through that and move on to our actions section. Now, very similar to our goblin we covered last week, our skeleton here is just doing short bow or short sword, which is all dex based anyways, and we are getting, well, first of all, we're looking at the +4 to hit, so we have to modify this real quick just to bring this in line here. So we're seeing a dexterity of 4, which is expected 3 to 4 attack bonus, which is perfectly good. We don't have to worry about that whole adjustment like I was talking about before. And then from there, we are looking at the 1d6 + 2 damage, which, like I said, like our goblin from last week, 5.5. And that will be, you know, since it's the same for both attacks, we're just going to copy one. It doesn't really matter at this point. Our monster's attacks don't have any kind of riders, so we don't have to worry about adding in any kind of an attack condition here. So we move on to the reaction. Counterattack, recharge 6. So we get this technically once every 6 rounds of combat. Your rolls may vary, but when a creature the skeleton can see hits it with an attack, the skeleton can make one short sword or short bow attack against the attacker. So this just gives us one more extra round of attacks, and we will definitely be seeing that for sure, that they can throw that out. Now, ironically enough, I have another game of Tales of the Valiant going on that I should be posting at some point soon, and I did get a chance to use the skeletons, but completely forgot to use the counterattack because I'm just not used to them having the counterattack. But good to know that it was in there. I may have actually used it, or I might have used it once. I don't remember. In any event, we're going to go ahead and throw all of this in. We're going to do ×2, and I'm using this part of the column here because we need the half dies for the damage here, because it does make a difference. As we can see, we should technically normally be, if ×2 for the reaction and 1 attack, we would get 10, but because of the half die, we're getting actually 11 points of damage here. Now, if the attack for the short bow or the short sword had some kind of a condition to it, and this was higher, I would be using this. But since this is technically higher, I'm using the half die. And then from here, we are just going to expect our skeleton to have 2 more regular attacks without a reaction, and we have ourselves the damage range here. The damage range, the damage per round is 7, which is on the high end for what we're expecting for a CR1 quarter skeleton, which is great to see. Even if you don't get the reaction out, like I forgot to do in most cases, at 5.5, excuse me, our skeleton here is still working out appropriately. And that's everything. So let's take a look here. What is going on? What did we not do? What's going on? Let's see here. For every 1 AC that the creature's AC is above the maximum. Oh, look at that. Yeah, that's correct. So our AC is a little high for a CR 1 quarter monster. With an AC of 13, we are 1 above. So that should be adjusting our hit points down, as we have here. But then for each type that we're resistant to, we're getting +3 bonus. So the question is, what is going on here? Let me take a look at this real quick. Okay, I think I see what the problem is here, is why they're reporting 14 and we're getting 16 here. If we go down here, there's a whole bunch of, if the CR of the monster is higher or lower, it triggers off of certain things. I believe, and this may or may not be correct, because our monster is lower than CR 19, the creature only has only 1 type of damage. Asterisk is about bludgeoning, piercing, slashing being 1, to which it is resistant or immune. So the thing here is that we are resistant to piercing damage, but immune to poison damage. Because we have 2 items here, and it's an or, meaning that one or the other will trigger this ability, we would have to only have 1 here. So if we remove the poison, we're getting this modifier and a -2, which might bring us down to the 14 like we're seeing. So I think what's happening here is that there might have been a slight oversight of the skeleton's hit points with the poison damage here being immune to poison, which is a damage type due to the undead resilience here. So we're immune to poison damage, which should cancel out this -5 hit points here. So like again, if we remove this, we're at the -5 again. If we remove this, again, we're at the -5 because we only have 1 damage type. Now, if we had other things like the creature is resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage from non-magical attacks, and this is the only type of damage, then we might trigger that. Let's see here. Does that trigger? No, it doesn't. I wonder, let me see something real quick here. No, that's really strange. I wonder why this one isn't. Anyways, that's strange. I'll have to see. Maybe that's another bug. That's something that should be coming into place. But in any event, it looks like our skeleton technically should have 16 hit points, not 14, because of the resistance and immunities issue here. So beyond that, we have ourselves a pretty well balanced skeleton. I'd say it's probably off by, it's like 98% accurate, just due to that one little indiscretion here, discrepancy. And beyond that, I would say use the skeleton at CR1 quarter and have some fun. I did. I had a great time. My characters, or my players, fought a bunch of skeletons, and it was an easy fight for them. Well, I shouldn't say easy, but it was a good tactical and challenging hard encounter for them. So definitely use this in your game and enjoy. So until next time, have a great time. Well, in any event, I'll see you guys next time.